I just wrapped up my first bodybuilding show ever, and it was one of the hardest things I've probably ever done, but it was extremely eye-opening. I wanted to talk to you guys about the whole entire process and what I learned and what you, an ordinary person or someone looking to compete someday, could learn from it. So first off, I prepped for roughly 6 months, you could say. It wasn't an intense prep the whole entire 6 months, but I started talking to my coach in January, started cleaning up my diet, and then we did a traditional like 12, 16-week prep when that time came around. I did all my training on my own, so I didn't have my coach me up for any of that because I'm very confident in my programming and training capabilities. My coach mostly was there for the nutritional guidance, the cardio guidance, and accountability guidance. My training intensity was pretty much the same throughout the whole entire prep until about the last 2 weeks. After a few days of being really low carb and just fully depleted, my strength just right off a cliff, and it's pretty normal. But once that strength dropped off, it never came back. So for those last 2 weeks of prep, I cut my training intensity down to like RPE 8 max, and it was pretty much just maintaining whatever muscle mass I had in those last 2 weeks. I wasn't training that hard. The toughest part about prep for me was the cardio. So cardio is just tough, not just doing the actual cardio, but it's just making the time for the cardio. I'd wake up 4 in the morning, go get my workout in, maybe do cardio after my lift, come home, eat, shower, commute to work, and then if I had to do cardio after work, I would stop by the gym after work, do cardio, and then come home. And it's like that's your whole entire day on top of prepping food, eating your meals, and stuff like that. So the time commitment is most definitely the hardest part of prep, because as someone who loves working out, like getting to the gym and working out is not hard for someone that loves to do it. Most people don't love cardio, so that extra commitment to the gym is pretty challenging. Probably the second hardest part of the prep was when the carbs get low and you get that brain fog. Like, you just feel like a zombie. Honestly, it's just day to day. Like, anything above the bare minimum it's hard to give. And it's really tough when you're like a hard worker and you take pride in your work, especially at work, and you're kind of just dragging your feet around. You can kind of mentally get in a slump, and I did quite a few times. But it's important for when you get like that your coach is encouraging, because it's like, yeah, you're supposed to feel like shit right now. It's normal. And it's like, oh, okay, to be expected. Training 5 times a week, cardio anywhere from 5 to 6 times a week, mostly the stairs, just because the stairs elevates my heart rate more than anything else, which is what we want to get in that zone 2 cardio state with the least amount of fatigue. So stairs was the best option for me. A few more things here about the journey. So, tanning, check-ins, show day, it was all pretty cool. Honestly, it was a pretty fun experience. It was one of the first times I've ever been in a room where I just respected everyone just right off the rip. All the dudes in there had been committed to their prep for however long and, are ready for show day. And a lot of people don't ever make it to show day. They'll commit to a prep and they always drop out or whatever, find whatever excuse they can. So everyone there that made it to show day, there's like a mutual respect for everyone, and backstage, it's just a bunch of dudes chatting it up about random things, gaming, anime, lifting. Like, it was really cool. So I definitely enjoyed that. Tanning was a hilarious experience, just a bunch of naked dudes pretty much with their junk in a sock getting tanned. It's, standing by the fans, lined up. It's a wild thing. Very, very like military, like, you're just exposed, max vulnerability, and yeah, that's that. I forgot to mention, shaving sucks, and I'm so itchy right now. So that's definitely something I will not miss for the time being. And last takeaway, I am 100% natural, no anabolics, and I was competing in a non-tested federation. So there's a bunch of dudes on sauce, on gear, whatever you want to call it. And I obviously did not place well. And I'm not here seeking sympathy or pity. I knew what I was getting into. But, placing dead last in your class probably doesn't ever feel good. Losing doesn't ever feel good for anyone that's competitive. But, hey, I got this participation trophy just for competing. Pretty badass. You know, I'll probably remember this and have this forever. So, and I probably will compete again. I need to put on probably 10 to 15 pounds of muscle at least, and I'll probably compete in a tested federation next time. Fair playing field, and I definitely need to practice posing more, probably hire a posing coach. That's one of the hardest parts about bodybuilding as well. It's just presenting your physique. Part 2, more of what I learned. There is a huge difference between being stage lean and just a healthy lean that you really need to understand as a normal person, because a lot of people equate, you know, really lean bodybuilding physiques to a healthy physique, and it's just not true at all. None of those guys backstage were in healthy body fat ranges, and we are all very depleted back there, and that's not healthy. So there is a major difference between being stage lean and being healthy lean. You know, stage lean, you're probably 5 to 8% body fat, and I don't quite remember the healthy body fat range for men, but probably anywhere from 10 to 15. 16 is probably healthy for men, and there's really no reason to dip underneath unless you're gonna compete on stage. And that kind of leads me to this other talking point, as in why it's so bad to chase aesthetics as a normal person, right? So like everyone equates having a six-pack to being lean or like to being healthy. But you know, even for me, I had to get down to 10% body fat to have a six-pack, like to have a visible six-pack. And some people, depending on their abs and their genetics, can have a six-pack at 14%, 16%. But if you're one of those people that has really deep abs and they're kind of underdeveloped, you have to get down to sub 10% to see them. And in reality, that's just not worth it, in my opinion. So with all that being said, when it comes to prep, you definitely need a good support team. So my mom's the best. She helps with all my food, my meals. You know, your coach needs to be really encouraging, because a lot of self-doubt creeps in, and it's natural, it's part of the process. So having the right people in your corner is really important, and competing will give you a lot of clarity on people that you actually want in your corner. You know, people come out of the woodworks and start supporting you because they see you're doing something hard, and like it really fires you up. You know, it's like, oh, these people rock. Like, these people are the ones I want in my corner. And people that you thought support you don't show up in any way, shape, or form to support you. And it's pretty sad, you know. So you get a lot of clarity from competing, and at least I did. With all that being said, next time I compete, I do need to show up leaner. Probably another 5 pounds leaner at least. You know, I had full abs, I had full obliques, I had shoulder striations, I had some lines in my quads, but still wasn't enough for me anyways. I needed some striations, probably like some feathering in my quads and triceps would have been better. My hamstrings needed to be dug in more. My glutes needed to be more shredded. But it was my very first show ever. You can't expect to show up on stage just extremely diced like that. And if you do, you probably will have to go through a really sufferable prep. Lose a lot of muscle on that journey too. And there comes a point where it's probably not even worth the trade-off, right? Because let's say even if I was a lot leaner, I don't think my placing would have changed at all. There was only 4 people in my class, a true novice, and all 3 of those dudes had 10 to 15 pounds of more muscle at least. So it really didn't matter if I showed up leaner. I'm not using that as an excuse, it's kind of just objective reality. At the end of the day, it's bodybuilding. You have to have a lot of muscle. If you look like a skeleton up there, peeled to, you know, super peeled, and the other guys just dwarf you, you know, it's not worth it. So my final takeaways and what you can take away from this is you don't need to compete to take your health seriously, but having a goal and a plan and just being laser focused on that goal and plan makes the biggest difference in the world, right? Even for myself, even for someone who loves health, loves fitness, you know, does all this stuff all the time. My physique dramatically changed in those 6 months of being focused. And I'm someone who probably doesn't have as much room to improve as an ordinary person. So the more laser focused you can get, the more of a plan and structure you can follow to a T, all the better results you can get. And it's kind of hard, right? Because when we talk about weight loss, when we talk about behavior change, we want it to be sustainable, or it needs to be sustainable and a lifestyle change for most people to adhere to it long term. But the results that people want and the way to get the best result is to be 100% committed, just full change, laser focused on a goal. And that's not really realistic for a lot of people, but the more realistic you can make that for yourself, the more progress you can make. And another thing, bodybuilding prep is nothing special. Like there's nothing magical. There's no secret inside tricks to fat loss. There's little things here and there, nutrition-wise or structure-wise, that you're going to learn from your coach, or things that they implement. But you're just in a calorie deficit, an energy deficit for a long time, and you are just ensuring that you are, with the nutrition, with the cardio, you are just ensuring you are in a great enough energy deficit to lose body fat for a long period of time. And that's how you get shredded. You are just doing what is required for weight loss over a long period of time with laser focus. This prep also revealed my weak points in my physique. You do not know your strong points or your weak points in your physique until you get really lean and you're posing and you have to showcase this muscle in this pose. To give you an example, one of the mandatories in Classic is a front relaxed, and the front relaxed, your lats make or break your front relaxed, and I have no lats. I had no lats in my front relaxed, so that was my worst pose. And that's that's the mandatory pose. That's the pose you sit in when you're transitioning to when they're moving you around on stage. You're just sitting there, front relaxed. So having a weak front relaxed, guaranteed me a bad placing. But I would have never truly accepted that I have bad lats or ability to bring my lats out unless I competed. So, bodybuilding and doing prep will bring you immense amount of clarity and truth about your physique that you will never get without doing. So that is a huge takeaway for me. And it can be a huge takeaway for you if you are someone who's kind of delusional about your physique, because I was for a long time, right? I was sitting at probably 18-20% body fat. And I'm like, oh, I look good, I'm just big, I wear an XLT, I'm just, I'm kind of huge, I'm just built, and in reality, I was kind of just lying to myself. And now that I've been made aware of what my physique truly looks like underneath all the fat, water, and whatever, I know my weak points, I know what I need to work on, and I pretty much can't lie to myself anymore. So I really love that. Some people won't, but I am on the journey of self-improvement every day. So the more I can discover and be truthful with myself, all the better. So my final words of encouragement and advice for you to take away from this is, better your plan is, and the more laser focused on that plan you can be, the greater results you will achieve, period. And I know this kind of sounds like common sense, but most people don't truly understand what it's like to be laser focused on one goal, on one task. And that's exactly what bodybuilding prep is. You set out on a journey, usually 16 weeks, to bring the best physique possible to the stage. That is the only thing you worry about for 16 weeks. Nothing else matters. So if you can apply that to your life and work, or on your own personal fitness journey, set out a timeline, a plan, and disregard everything else and just focus on that thing with laser focus, you will achieve great results. I promise you. So that's my final takeaway from this video. Let's look at my cool medal one more time. If the final takeaway of this video resonated with you really well, you want to get into that more, watch this video right here where I do just that. And thanks again for watching. See you guys in the next one.